Dave Birkett here, along with Carlos Monarrez after a Detroit Lions victory. And Carlos, look, we discussed this, but whether to give this third person, the third wheel here, another go round of our weekly Zoom. And I know you were hurt by last week, and I was hurt by last week. That this guy over here sitting to our right on the screen. I don't even want to use his name. I'm still so broken up about it. But then he graced us for 5 minutes. I mean, maybe we should feel honored that we got 5 minutes of his presence.
I thought it was more like 10.
10? Maybe it was 10. I'm not talking to you yet. What do you think, Carlos? Should we let him in?
That Shawn guy? Yeah, let's give him one more chance. One more.
Only because he brings so much joy to these
Yeah, I try to be like Carlos. That's my model. I try to emulate him and smile and look at the bright side of things.
Well, I mean, this is the Carlos of 2019-20 then, not the Carlos of every other year of his life, I guess.
Yeah, I think
I've always been a beacon of hope and a ray of sunshine. How dare you?
Yeah, I did like your 1950s view that Kenny Golladay should keep his mouth shut and just be happy he's employed in the National Football League.
All right, let's start there.
Shut up and catch passes. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
We got a lot to cover, right? I mean, crazy win, crazy finish. I have an apology to make. When we get to talking about that, but let's start with that Kenny Golladay, right? I wrote last week the Lions should pay Kenny Golladay. You wrote after the game, after watching Kenny Golladay go all Megatron, that the Lions should pay Kenny Golladay. One of the three of us, and Shawn, this is probably really why I wanted to have you on today, so at least I had some support with it. One of the three of us, for some reason, thinks that these guys should just be quiet and not want to get paid for doing a job that only a handful of people in the world can do. I don't quite get it, but what do I know?
Well, I can win the argument this way. Is would the free press rather pay good boys who do as they're told, like Shawn Windsor and Dave Birkett, or would they rather pay troublemakers who are just causing problems like Carlos Monarrez? So if you're an employer, and I think, let's not forget, the whole point of it is, yes, you can want whatever, but be smart about it, because you have to know who your boss is. You have to know who your coach is, your employer, whoever it is, you have to understand, read the room. And when you go off on on Instagram or social media, some potty mouth language, Dave, that I do not approve of, that, that just isn't a good look. There's different ways to communicate your message. You want to get paid. Don't make it harder for yourself to get paid. Act like a team guy. Adrian Peterson is a great example. Matt Prater, these kind of guys.
You just don't want people causing any problems for your boy Matt Patricia's locker room. That's all it is, or for your guy Matt Patricia. That's all it comes down to. Because look, did you not notice that Antonio Brown just got signed? I mean, look, if Antonio Brown can get signed, then Kenny Golladay going on Instagram and saying that shit's going to cost you, bleep going to cost you. It's not a big deal. He needs to get paid. Everyone on Twitter is saying he needs to get paid. I mean, all his boys, his teammates, there were like a dozen Lions that responded to that tweet. Everyone in the locker room knows he needs to get paid.
Absolutely. And that's not the argument. The argument isn't that he needs to get paid. He does need to get paid. But why make it harder for yourself? Why make it – let's not forget.
Because it doesn't matter to him who pays him. It doesn't matter who pays him. The Lions don't pay him. Somebody else is going to pay him. That's the bottom line.
Right. But he doesn't want to have to go somewhere else. He doesn't want to – situation here, he wants to play here. He says he wants to play here. It makes sense. He has Stafford, all that stuff, right? It makes sense. But just why are you hurting your chances? Why are you, kicking the hornet's nest a little bit and tweaking management, tweaking the ownership of you guys haven't paid me. I'm frustrated. This is going to cost you. Let's not forget, you and I, maybe he didn't live through the Jim Schwartz days, but all of us lived through the Jim Schwartz days. And we know that one of the reasons he lost his job and one of the reasons he hasn't gotten another head coaching job is because he was seen as a guy who didn't have institutional control. Guys got in problems. They got in trouble. They weren't.
Don't jump in here. I want to hear from someone saying on this.
Well, there are a few things here. First of all, he's not. All he said is he wanted to get paid. He's not out there criticizing the general manager, the coach, or this offensive coordinator, the scheme, or did he's not getting enough balls. If he were complaining about them not getting enough passes thrown his way, that would be one thing, right? And some of the guys that you're implying, not implying, some of the guys you're referencing, Carlos, who were let go. I think the Lions felt like, bottom line, maybe they were on the downside of their career. I mean, if they weren't going to let in prime guys go, I don't think. And by the way, the Patriots, for most of their last 10 years, every year just about, they would go sign somebody that would do something like that because they felt like if they could absorb it. But I don't even think it's – look, we don't need to compare Golladay to Antonio Brown. I know you're not trying to do that, Dave, or any of these other guys. All he said is he wanted to get paid. He's respected in the locker room. He doesn't criticize anything. He's pretty quiet in the interviews. If Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia can't figure out how to incorporate and pay a guy who's got a tiny bit of personality, then they're not going to be able to handle any kind of NFL locker room, period. Then they're not that good, to be honest with you, because the free press bosses can handle all right? They can handle all kinds of personalities, depressed, melancholy, jerkheads like me, workaholics like Dave. I'm not even sure what to call you, Carlos, right? I mean, 1 minute you're Mr. Sunshine, the next minute you're Don Rickles. So, whatever. But they absorb all that, and that's what good managers and coaches do, right?
Listen, you hockey puck. Let me tell you the truth here. The argument isn't whether Patricia and Quinn are good or bad or whatever. It's who they are. You just have to understand who they are. Bill Belichick is different than Pete Carroll, who's different from,
Who's Kenny Golladay? He's a guy that wants to get paid. It's the same thing. Understand who they are.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Wants to get paid.
Someone signs the checks. Someone signs the checks. They have that power. Whether we like it or not, they have the power there, the purse. So let me just ask you, if you guys are Sheila Hamp and you see that on Instagram, this shit gonna cost you after his first decent game. How do you make that? What do you make of that? It's just like, oh man, he's right. This is going to cost me. I need to pay him. How would you take that?
Part of life in the NFL, A. B, then you say, why hasn't he signed yet? Well, because we're offering him whatever, $15.5 million a year and he wants $18 million a year. Okay, let's find a way to bridge that gap. Well, guess what? When Kenny keeps going, having these games, it emboldens him to say, this is why I want my $18 million a year. And when you look at the way the numbers have gone in the NFL at the receiver position, that's what talent costs at the position. So, look, the Lions are going to have to cough up some money to sign him, maybe more than they want to. That's obviously going to be determined here over the next couple months. But I got no problem with Kenny voicing his opinion. I got no problem with Kenny saying he wants to get paid. And again, if the Lions aren't going to pay him, somebody's going to pay him.
All right, let me give you an example, a different guy, Marvin Jones, right? You guys talked to him last night after he had a good game. He admitted he was frustrated, and you guys asked him, well, what is the frustration? Get into it, whatever. He discussed a little bit, not getting the balls really as much as he'd like because he can help the team, whatever. But he said, I'm going to keep most of that in-house. And if you go on Instagram or any kind of social media and you start voicing your frustration or in a public way, that if the public sees that, behind closed doors, other stuff's going on. And that was the problem with Quandre Diggs and Darius Slay and those guys, is that was the stuff that we didn't see, the stuff where they pushed back on either it was coaching or strategy.
Why is pushing back a bad thing? Why is pushing back a bad thing? I mean, that's what we're talking about in our country right now. Pushing back is a good thing. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Sean, look, when what's Tom Izzo's thing, right? Not every rule applies the same to every person. And that's exactly Marvin Jones isn't the same receiver as Kenny Golladay. So if Marvin
Jones not. Kenny Golladay is not
situation.
And Kenny Golladay has not ever complained publicly about anything like that. He's been a quiet guy, right? I mean, when has he ever complained about anything like that? To me, that kind of stuff can be probably an issue in the team. As far as Quandre Diggs and Darius Slay, they're both good players, and they were obviously a lot of fun for us. But I guarantee you, if Darius Slay was the best cornerback in the NFL and still had 3 or 4 years of his prime left, there's no way they would have moved it. They just wouldn't have, because talent is still what matters more than anything else. And that guy can go. You know what? I know he runs a 4.5 40. He's not the fastest guy. He's not even the biggest guy. He's got length and incredible toughness and fearlessness, and he can go high point a ball with the best of them in the league right now, which matters, because Stafford, particularly with Stafford, who throws those rockets, sometimes they get up a little bit, and he goes and gets them. Is he going to run down the sideline and run by guys 5 yards like Calvin Johnson did? Absolutely not. But as you pointed out, Carlos, making your own anti-argument in your piece the other day, he led the league in touchdowns last year, right? Touchdowns. I understand catches, whatever. I think, what was he, Dave, before yesterday, 41st or 42nd? something like that, or not before yesterday. That was what it was a year ago. But touchdowns and yardage, I mean, the guy, he makes plays. He got a ball yesterday, Carlos, at one point, and I look at Dave, and Dave's like, he's a baller. You pay ballers. You win with ballers, unless they're so disruptive, which this guy is not.
Absolutely not. Just because someone says some things publicly doesn't mean it. And hey, the bottom line, even beyond all those stats, Lions are 3-1 with him in the lineup, 0-2 without him. They need him on the field. He's their best offensive player outside of Matthew Stafford. Those two are a great tandem. I think the Lions.
And I mean, your arguments are basically good play excuses bad behavior is what you're really
bad behavior. For believing it,
it's not.
You guys can do whatever you want.
No.
For believing in yourself. You're talking about a guy that goes over the middle with a quarterback that sometimes lays his guys out. As Calvin Johnson said that not all that long ago, right? Who is fearless. That is not a play for me guy. That's a team guy. I'm going to go out and sacrifice my body.
That's not a team play. That's an individual look at me, highlight sports.
No, it's not. I played wide receiver in high school, and it was terrifying running a post over the middle when you're looking back to catch the ball, knowing that the safety's right there and you're about to get boom. Now, admittedly, we're all running like 6-second 40s, so the velocity's not the same. But still, come on, man.
No, man, that's what they do. That's what they get paid to do. You can make that argument about every single,
No, the coaches. I remember in the huddles, in practice, the coaches talk to the receiver group about making a play for the quarterback and making plays for other people and laying your body out, not just for you. It's not about your stats and your glory. You're doing it for the team.
Hey, why, Carlos? Look, and Shawn, I'm so glad you joined us today. I wanted you here all along. I mean, I really did. Carlos,
I didn't even want him on the call.
But look, Carlos, you still haven't explained to me why is it bad behavior to know your worth and to say I'm worth money. I mean, that's all he did was go online and say, this is going to cost you. If you want me to keep making these plays, it's going to cost you. Why? That's not bad behavior.
You think
players picking up for himself and saying, hey, I'm worth something is not bad behavior.
So you think that if you wrote a good story and you go on in Twitter and say, hey, Free Press, this shit gonna cost you. I wrote a good story. I want more money. How do you think that would be taken?
How do you know I haven't done
that? That's they do it all the time. Yeah, it's just a bad look. As I explained in the story, it's it depends. Some owners, I don't know. Maybe Jerry Jones would like it. I don't know. But I know that the Fords don't like it. I know that Patricia doesn't like it. I know that to Matt Patricia,
that's the bottom line right there. Patricia,
I think you guys probably. Well, he's his boss. I mean, you have to understand your boss. And the thing with Patricia is, what does he value? Not what does he value, but what Patricia's kind of worried about. And why he got rid of some of these guys like Slay and Quandre and those guys and Golden Tate. Is that they were not
couldn't take strong personalities in his locker room.
Strong personalities, and he was worried that they would influence other players. And then you have, and we don't know everything about Kenny Golladay, by the way. He does not talk a lot in the locker room. He's not a very vocal guy. He's standoffish. He can be a little prickly.
Standoffish? Why do you say that? Kenny is not standoffish. Kenny, I certainly don't want to pretend like I know Kenny, but just because he's quiet with the media does not mean he's standoffish. Again, you look at that post that he put on Instagram, there were a dozen Lions players, current Lions players, that responded to that tweet, that liked that tweet, that put money bags, under that tweet. I mean, just the fact that there was that volume of players that responded to it tells me how much he's liked in that locker room.
And how much he's liked in that locker room, but let's also look at the people who responded. It's not also a good look for them either sometimes, because they're very, Dave, there are people in the Lions organization who are very aware of social media and who's responding to what and what comments they're making. And generally, I mean, if I went out there and ran for a yard, they'd be like, pay that man. Yeah, money bag emoji. Everybody loves, and you're one of the biggest cheerleaders, by the way, Dave, of, hey, it's not my money. Yeah, let's pay them all. It's just monopoly money. It's fun to see guys get paid. And that's just an attaboy, an appreciation. It doesn't mean a heck of a lot, really, But, I mean, you have to look at the guys, the Trey Flowers type guys, the team guys that Matt Patricia really likes. Why wouldn't you act? And look at those Instagrams, like Kenny Golladay posing with all that Gucci stuff. And, these flex shots and all this stuff.
Why is that a bad thing? I don't understand why that's a bad thing. You say it like it's a bad thing.
It's a me first mentality. In this case, it's a me first mentality. And receivers tend to be divas. We all know that. They tend to be kind of like selfish and what makes them good. But just publicly, you need to be careful about the message that you send, especially when the coach that you have, the this is all about team.
Is the same thing that we've seen. The message that he's sending is the same thing that we've seen all across sports here in the LeBron era, right? It's know your worth, protect yourself, make sure that you're getting paid, make sure that you're looking out for number one. And I don't think to me, I've seen him as a team first guy. Shawn points out, laying out for some of those catches, this is not a guy that shies away from contact, that doesn't lay it all on the line.
He's a good blocking receiver. Yeah.
Does a lot of things, plays when he's not 100%. But I don't have any problem with any player who thinks they're worth a certain dollar figure and wants to make sure that in their short career, they go out and get that dollar figure. And that's, hey, look, Kenny saying it publicly, even in a cryptic tweet like he did, or a cryptic Instagram post, like I have zero problem with that, kind of. I don't know. Well, he wouldn't explain exactly what he meant when I asked him yesterday, but I did say that he's making.
That tells you everything. There's two things. That tells you everything. He knows that it's not really a great message, and he's probably been talked to about it by somebody in the organization. Like, let's be a little smarter about how we put our.
Or maybe he just had to voice his frustration because he's getting frustrated with where the contract talks are, and he thought months ago he was going to have a deal, and now he doesn't. And hey, again, if you're getting frustrated, well, then that's a problem that the team has to make sure that they take care of, so that frustration doesn't creep into the locker room and other people look around and say, man, I don't understand why Kenny's not getting paid. Look at all that he does for us offensively. Look how important he is to what we're doing. Like, you don't pay him. What's that mean for me, for the little guy on the totem pole that's not going to get that big bucks? So I find no fault with what Kenny did.
And besides, Carlos, you're defending. It's like it's worked so well for the Lions, right? You know what I mean? Pretending it's Pleasantville and it's all in black and white, and you know what I mean?
You can pay all the Danny Amendolas, Carlos. I'll pay all the Kenny Galladays, and then I'll put my 11 against your 11, and we'll see who wins.
I'm not. The argument is not to pay Kenny. I'm saying pay Kenny. He deserves every penny he gets. I respect where he's come from, how he's had to mold his career out of nothing. I get it. It's cool, but just don't be stupid about your message. What he should have posted was, hey, this is, great team win, man, like whatever, like, hey, team guys. And that's what they want to hear. You got to tell
your bosses. They want to hear. Be true to yourself. Who cares what they want to hear? Be yourself. What have we learned in the last? No, well, what have we learned in this whole, political cycle and everything that's going on again, right? Be yourself. You want people just to fall in line and conform with what the man says. And I don't want my athletes to do that. I don't want my kids to do that. I want them to have their own be their own people.
The man, and the definition of the man is changing a little bit, right? The man's losing a little power and should lose a little power.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about.
Well, and they have, in different ways.
They are the product on the field. They should be empowered. They should empower themselves.
They should, and but we've seen it. Ownership with they've relented and they've allowed them to kneel and all the stuff and take that day off of practice.
They don't allow them to kneel. You kneel if you want to kneel. See, that's the problem. That whole mentality there. You don't allow me to kneel. I'll kneel if I want to kneel. Because that's how I feel about the national anthem. And then
you'll pay the consequences, whatever those.
That's fine. Be, right? That's fine because if I'm a player, especially if I'm a player of Kenny Galladay's magnitude, if I feel like I want to kneel, I'll kneel myself. I don't need you to allow me to kneel. And I think that's the problem with today's society, today's, the franchises, the owner, everything that mentality has creeped too far into it, to not just sports but life.
Well, let's not forget that above everything, the sports are businesses, and they're very public-facing businesses. Okay, we all know that. So, it's not just about does Dave Birkett want to kneel and that's it. It's
players are
smart. Look at Matthew Stafford. He's an example. What's that?
I said players are
Say that
businesses
again.
too. I mean, somebody had told me this a long time ago, right?
Right.
These players, they are their own corporations. So you make your own decisions. And if you want to put that out there, again, that's your decision, what you say about your worth and how you're going about, getting that and the image, if you want to kneel, if you want to do whatever. Players are their own corporations these days. That's the money that's at hand.
Well, to some extent, yes, but they work for a company still. They have bosses, and like it or not, you're subject to what your
that's
company.
What they should have. It should be partners. And that's the problem with this is that, you should have, this should be a partnership. It's not, you're my boss. We're partners in helping the Lions win. And until players are treated like that, I'm just telling you that that's how players feel. Right. And when you don't treat them like that, then that's when you end up sending them out of town and taking 10 cents on the dollar for a Darius Slay.
Yeah. I mean, that ramifications both ways. Absolutely. You can do it your own way. And if they don't like it, they can get rid of you, but then they pay a price on the other end for sure. So you're right. There should be a partnership and there is a partnership, but I think like you said, when they think of themselves as their own brands in golf, I know you don't follow golf, Dave, but the long-standing thing about golf is they're all independent contractors. And that's a good way to look at it. If you follow African-American, golfers like Harold Varner III and guys like that, I wouldn't even say Tiger, but like Harold Varner, they are very active on social media and stuff, but they're careful about their messaging because they know it's not the PGA Tour that's going to catch flack. It's them personally. They have to be aware of their brand. They have sponsors that they've got. Everybody's got a boss. Nobody's just out there, even LeBron, even Jordan, whatever, they all have bosses, so you have to be careful about how you represent yourself. And my argument just in this whole thing, to wrap it up, I think, is, he should get paid. And I think he deserves it. I think he makes great, incredible plays. He has talent. He's a unique talent on the Lions who serves a very, specific role. But make it easier on yourself. Let the coaches hear what they want to hear. Play the game. Be smarter about that. So I don't think that making these weird potty mouth threats on Instagram is going to help him get closer to a contract. I think my guess is he thought, I'm going to put some public pressure on the Lions a little bit. I'm frustrated. Had a great game and this is going to cost you. And he got all these pats on the back and attaboys and whatever. But internally, I just don't think it would have been well received.
I have a question for you. A couple of questions. First of all, your Zoom or your internet signal's going out a little bit, right? Or maybe it's me, I don't know. But if it is you, speaking of partnerships, I want Patricia to pay you a little bit more. And by the way, how much is he paying you for this message today? That's my real question. Are you a contractor? You're a contractor, right?
Family member.
Yeah, I think the PayPal check should be coming through. Or in Bitcoin. I get paid in Bitcoin usually.
Look at this.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's just the uncomfortable.
What's that?
Do you want to hear the truth, or do you want to live in fantasy land of their contractors and they do whatever they want and power to the players? Like stand tall, stand proud, Kenny. Or do you just want to accept reality? They're in our.
We might have lost
him, Dave.
We might have lost him. That's all right. I think the internet was telling him they're sending him a message. His internet connection was sending him.
I think so.
All right.
I think so.
Let's
hopefully he'll come back.
Yeah, we'll move on from Kenny Golladay.
What's that?
So let's move on from Kenny Golladay because, frankly, we spent enough time talking about that, and I don't know. I think we only got a few more minutes left on the Zoom here. So just yesterday, you and I were out there in Atlanta, and obviously fantastic, finish there. Just, amazing. We've obviously seen some crazy finishes between the Lions and Falcons for that matter before. But I said I had an apology to make off the top, and I need to do that to Will Harris. I put him in my stock down because he seemed to be the one guy on the play yesterday, the Todd Gurley touchdown, who didn't understand, hey, let this guy score. Well, it turns out that's what he was coached to do, right? He was coached to half tackle him to try to get Gurley's momentum going forward into the end zone a little bit. So I need to apologize to Will Harris for putting him on that list and give Patricia credit and give that defense credit for playing the way I did, I guess, and goading Gurley into scoring a touchdown there.
So I should apologize too, because I wrote my column that he started a tackle and then realized at some point and let go, which I thought was really clever.
Yes.
But all along, I mean, somebody somewhere in that organization rep that out. Or at least talked about it in film, right?
Well, apparently this stems back to, Matt Patricia played with the Patriots years ago when they let the running back just run up the middle without any, resistance, and the running back stopped. Dawned on him that, hey, they're letting me score. I don't want to score here. And well, on some level, that's what they did to Todd Gurley. They sort of, goaded him into scoring a touchdown where, hey, we don't want you to score here. We're going to stop you. But really, they wanted him to score. So I don't know. I mean, talking to Romeo Aquara, on the Zoom yesterday, I didn't get the impression that, maybe he was in on it. So I don't know. Maybe not everybody got the message, but it sounds at least like Will Harris was doing his job there. So I just wanted to say my apologies, I guess. When I get something wrong, I get something wrong. That was the case with Will Harris.
Well, and I should have apologized too, because when we were in the stadium yesterday, Atlanta picked up 8 yards on its first down. I'm trying to remember where they were exactly. Roughly a minute and a half left, maybe something like that at the time. Remember, they get all the way down there, so it's first down. They get 8 yards. Patricia calls a timeout. And I remember being really curious about that, because at that point you figure they're going to get 2 yards, right, with the way they've been moving the ball. So don't call a timeout. Let them get the 2 yards, and then it's going to go down to a little bit less than a minute, and then try again with first down, right, and see if you can do it. It ended up not mattering, obviously, because of what happened with Gurley and the brilliant play from Harris, and then the remarkable sort of move down the field. Dave, have you ever seen anything like that in person? I mean, something that
was a wild,
sort of crazy.
No, that was a wild one for sure. I mean, look, the Lions had so many of these comebacks. What was it, 2017, when they had 8 of them there, and they've been a part of a lot of collapses too, as we all know. Look, I was at the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl when the Patriots came back from 28-3. So certainly have seen massive, comebacks before. But
who was the defensive coordinator for that game?
Your dad.
Yeah. By the way, I wanted to point out. So Carlos wrote, I think maybe in his,
but it's something.
Carlos wrote in his 3 questions, which were brilliant. But I did want to point out that he said they should be 4-2. I would actually argue the opposite. I think they were right where they should be. I think they probably should have beaten Chicago, because that's a drop. And 99 times out of 100, Gurley gets the knee, right? I mean, it's just you rarely see teams score when they don't want to these days. I mean, it used to happen all the time back in the Carlos's era when he started watching football in the 60s. But
it works out. I mean, that's the NFL, right?
But, so to me,
we dropped one.
Yeah, 3-3 is probably where they should be. They should have beaten Chicago and probably should have lost yesterday.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. But bad luck. Luck, right?
One thing I'll say about the Falcons game is, I wouldn't put that anywhere near the same category as DeAndre Swift dropping that pass, because this is all on Raheem Morris.
Carlos.
And this is why the guy should never have another head coaching job, is to say, you guys take 2 knees and we kick a field goal, and that's it. Why are you even running a play? That's idiotic.
I mean, I agree with you. Obviously they said their plan was to get to the 1, which, I put that in my stock watch too, that this is Raheem Morris for an addition for a head coaching job. This was not the tape that you want to put out there, because I didn't think that, look, first passing on a field goal on 4th and 5, you kick that field goal and it doesn't even matter at the end, whether you score that touchdown or not. So, look, bottom line, the Falcons made a lot
You called it greedy. It was stupid.
It was stupid. Maybe I was being too kind there. I have some kindness in my heart, Carlos.
Yeah.
Look, we can say that
I've seen your heart, Dave. I don't know if I agree with that.
Look, it was a great game. I don't know if it was a great game. It was a great finish. The Lions made a lot of really mentally tough plays, a lot of clutch plays. But they had to catch a serious break to win the game with what happened with Todd Gurley. And the opposite was true with Chicago. It was just bad luck. The ball's right there. You're not normally going to drop that ball. But still, 3-3 is about right. They got a nice schedule setting up. I think they need to beat the Colts, or all this momentum is going to, right? If they're 3-4, then you're looking at win 1, lose 1, win. And then December is really tough. So they need to get through this stretch. But I tell you what, and I don't want to bring Michigan in this necessarily, but after watching Michigan Saturday night, and then Sunday watching what the Lions did. Can you guys imagine just for the next 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, we might have some really compelling football on Saturday and Sunday. I'm sorry, Michigan State, but that was hard. That was difficult. But it's been a while, right? We talk about all our teams struggling, and here we got a real possibility of some really, really compelling stuff the next 7, 8 weekends.
Look, compelling football does not necessarily mean that you have good football teams. I mean,
no, I'm not saying good. I'm saying a reason to watch, a reason to get juice. You saw the reaction of a lot of your Lions fans, Carlos. You know
what? I hate to agree with Shawn, but he's right. Is that the interest in that game yesterday? It was exciting. I wouldn't call it, like I said, I wouldn't call it a well played game. The mistakes on both sides and everything, but it was a fun back and forth game. It had a lot. And by the way, I was coming off that brutal loss the night before to the Tampa Bay Rays when they kicked the ball twice and allowed 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th. So I was already kind of upset and on the edge, and I was like, you know what, let me just have a calm, easy Lions game. Either they lose by a lot or win by a lot, whatever. So it was a lot of kind of emotion. So yeah, it was tough, but you're right, Shawn. That is what we can be facing. We can be facing a better than expected, right, Michigan team. Joe Milton looked good. And I'm sure you're probably going to be at several of Tom Izzo's open practices or closed practices just for you. Maybe leading some free throw drills or something.
No, I don't really.
I
don't snap my wrist properly. I have terrible form.
Tell Tom I need to get back up there. I need to take my basketball team up there so they can see how a real team practices, how hard they get.
That sounds good to me.
All right.
I'll tell him when I see him later tonight.
Yeah, I know, right? Tell Lupe I said hi too. All right.
Yeah, you say hi to Matt for us.
Yeah, Carlos. Yeah. We're going to leave it there because we're almost out of time here on the Zoom, but I'm glad we get to end on a positive note, how positive you guys are, excited you guys are about the fall, the month ahead with Michigan and Lions football after.
No, we're just hopeful, man. This area has just been, right? It's just, with the pandemic, I mean, we need a little something. I mean, maybe it could all fall apart next week. Who knows?
No, it's better to cover.
A little bit of hope.
As we've
it's
always
not going to fall apart just because they lose to the Colts is not the end of it. I mean, it's not going to. It'll stop their momentum a little bit, but their schedule going forward to the next 4 games after is still pretty good.
Absolutely, the Lions still should. I agree 100%. Regardless of what happens this weekend, the Lions have some very winnable games coming up. This is a team that, as we look at it now, I think the Football Outsiders gave them a 21% chance now of making the playoffs. They are in the hunt, whether you think they're a great team, a good team, a mediocre team, or worse. They are legitimately in the wild card hunt, and we will see how that plays out here over the next few weeks, I guess. So let's leave it at that before we get kicked off. And Shawn, I'm glad you could join us for the entire Zoom today. Maybe we'll have you on.
It was my pleasure. Sorry, I had a schedule conflict last week. Carlos keeps moving it around though so much, and I'm trying to adapt.
Adaptability, always good. Like Kenny Golladay.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it.
All right, boys. That was fun.
For Shawn Windsor, Carlos Monarrez, I'm Dave Birkett. Freak.com.